Okay, there we go. So we will get started. So thank you everyone who's joining us today, those logging in. We have Mandy Gingras with us today. Mandy is the Director of Education for 3RNet. So you might have seen me promote 3RNet a lot. That is the National Rural Recruitment and Retention Network. It is a nonprofit organization and a trusted resource for health professionals seeking careers in rural and underserved communities. If you have any questions regarding 3RNet after the presentation today, feel free to reach out to myself or Mandy about it to learn more. But Mandy provides recruitment and retention educational support to 3RNet members and safety net facilities across the nation. But she's here here today to discuss how understanding what motivates a candidate and tailoring your marketing efforts to meet those needs. So Mandy, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Paige,
Yeah.
for that lovely introduction and for bringing me here today to talk to everyone about marketing. We are just really going to kind of scratch the surface on what organizations can do to really create some compelling advertisements to really promote your opportunities. The job market is really tough nowadays. This is nothing new that I'm sure all of our listeners today don't already know or haven't already experienced. And we need to do everything that we can to really market our opportunities and to make sure that we are being as competitive as possible when it's such a competitive job market, and the we just are experiencing staffing shortages left and right. So I wanted to give before I really dive into this, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of information about my background and also let you know who the 3RNet is if you're not already familiar with us. I have been in the healthcare recruitment and retention space since 2007. I started my journey or my career with a primary care association, actually in New Hampshire and Vermont. And I worked as a workforce consultant for 14 years with them, providing a lot of what the education I'm going to be providing today, just consultation and workforce consulting to help safety net facilities, particularly those that are located in rural or underserved communities, to help them be more competitive and to, especially a lot of times, smaller organizations are working with really limited staff. You might have one HR person that really kind of wears all of the hats. So my job has always been to make your jobs easier, especially when you're spread so thin and you're doing a lot of the HR pieces of including all of the recruiting pieces, but also the retention pieces for your workforce. So 3RNet is something that I've been really involved with for many years. When I was in New Hampshire and Vermont, I was on the board for 3RNet. And then in 2020 moved to Michigan, and I'm now in the southeast corner of Michigan. I actually, we moved here because of my husband's job, and when I came here, I worked with McLaren Hospital for a while doing direct physician recruitment. And then 3RNet reached out to me to see if I would be interested in coming back to kind of the education space, and which is what I'm doing today. So the 3RNet is the Rural Recruitment and Retention Network. We are a national job board and organization. We're a nonprofit. We're federally funded through the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy, and we have been around since 1995. We put out what we're most well known for is our job board, and it is a way for mission-minded health professionals to reach some of the most unique and the most rewarding types of jobs located all across America in some of the most diverse and rural pockets, communities across the US. Our job board is on 3rnet.org if you aren't already familiar. We also provide education like today. We educate our network coordinators, but we also do webinars, conferences, lots of different speaking engagements to help facilities really be competitive, like I mentioned, in your rural and your underserved communities. And then we also have network coordinators in every single state. So we have on our website, we have, I'm actually going to flip to the next slide because this will speak to what I'm going to talk to you about. We have a page specific to every single state on the 3RNet. So Paige is our network coordinator in Michigan, and she represents the 3RNet job board for Michigan for us. So we have a network coordinator just like Paige in every single state that really helps to connect healthcare professionals that are looking to work in rural and underserved communities, connect with jobs. So hopefully all of you are already fully aware of this job board and all of the resources that you can find on our website. If you are not, I've provided some links here for you, but feel free to reach out to Paige at any time. She can help you to get connected if you need help posting your jobs, or just connecting with the different free resources that we provide on the website. She's your go-to person, but you can also reach out to me as well if you need any further information. And Mark is our member services person who does a really good job of providing trainings once a month for anyone new to the 3RNet job board. And just if you need help navigating, he does a training once a month. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us. So one of the free resources that we put out is what we call our recruiting for retention guides. We've broken down that recruitment and retention process into really 4 pretty easily digested and disseminated guides to help you kind of navigate all of different areas of recruitment and retention. Today, we are going to be focusing on part 2, which is the marketing aspect of the recruitment process. But part 1 talks about planning and preparation. Part 2 is marketing and finding those health professionals. Part 3 is that matching and committing. And then part 4 is the retention piece of it. So again, these are all available on our website. Paige can also help connect you to these if you're not familiar with these guides. And I did provide a direct link. You can either scan the QR code or there's a link there if you want to open up part 2, which is really what we're going to be covering today. So you'll have the guide at your fingertips. So I always like to say, here in Michigan, you have some of the most unique jobs and some of the most unique places, and really beautiful places all across the state. And I always really like to stress that you need to be creative and you really have to think outside the box and really capitalize on what sets you apart as a rural or an underserved community. So really thinking about, or what are your unique selling points? And then be strategic to make sure that you're reaching candidates who are really going to thrive in your area. So it first of all starts with thinking about who is our ideal candidate, who's going to thrive in our area, and then thinking, think outside that box of how are we going to find those people? What can we do to engage them? Because we know that that's key. And we also know that using real stories to really demonstrate your value is really what's going to make you really competitive and very compelling in your not only your job advertisements, but also on your virtual places, whether it's advertisements on Facebook, maybe it's just your website and your career page in general. You have to be really strategic and think about how you can really sell your opportunity and in a compelling way. So hopefully I'll help give you a lot of really good tips and ideas today. Feel free if you have any questions as I go through these slides, which you will have access to all the slides afterwards. But if you have questions, throw those in the chat and Paige is going to help me kind of monitor that chat and make sure I'm addressing any of your questions that you might have. So I want to first start out with one of the most important things to do is really recognizing that you have unique strengths and challenges. Every community has their own strengths and has their challenges. Doesn't matter if you're located in a rural area or if you're in an urban underserved area, everywhere, not just here in Michigan, but everywhere across the US. We really have to start with identifying what sets us apart, what do we have going for us, and what are some of those challenges? What are things getting in our way? And we have to be able to communicate what those strengths are and really stress those in our marketing. And then we also have to invest, not only recognize what our challenges are, but we have to invest in ways that we can overcome those challenges. So one of the things that we have put together to kind of help you in this space, we've put together what we call our factor books. And these are more free resources that are available on our website. We've designed three different guides depending on the type of facility that you have. We have one for critical access hospitals, which is the first one here that says factors to market your rural community. That is a guide for critical access hospitals. And I do have a link so that you can access that directly. We also have one for community health centers, and we also have a third one for rural health clinics. These guides are really great because what they do is they help you to kind of put into perspective some of you and identify really what your strengths are and gives you some ideas of how to communicate what those unique strengths are. And it also helps you to understand what some of those challenges are and gives you some ideas of how you can overcome those. And it also helps you to really kind of identify what a candidate sees as a potential strength, but could also see as a potential challenge, and gives you some ways to help you market those as well. So each one of these guides or factors books is broken down into 5 different what we call factors. And these are going to vary slightly depending on the type of health center. This one here is the factors book for critical access hospitals, for instance. So it's broken out into geographic factors, economic factors, scope of practice, medical support, and then hospital and community support factors. And like I said, it's going to help you identify what your community or your facility might have as a recruiting advantage related to each of these different key factors, and then explore some of the recruiting challenges too that might be associated with these factors. And then is also going to offer some possible solutions to help you work through some of those recruiting challenges. So I really highly encourage you to take a look at those different books just to kind of help you kind of navigate some of the different factors that you might be experiencing, because not every single facility is exactly the same. But there's a lot of commonalities here that you might be able to pull from. And it can also give you some really good ideas that you might be able to add to your advertisements and marketing. And there's also down here in the corner, there is a link to a scoring guide if you wanted to kind of go through and kind of assess how you might measure up to other organizations within your community or maybe within the state as well. So it's just another helpful tool for you. And I love resources, so I love to share a lot of resources to kind of help you do your work and really to kind of navigate the different recruiting and retention processes. But I've compiled a collection of different resources to kind of help you work through some of the different common challenges that rural and underserved communities really face every day. These are some really great resources that really give some ideas and successful strategies that other rural communities have used to overcome some of the common challenges, whether it's housing shortages, childcare shortages, staffing shortages, maybe access to broadband, lots of different kind of common themes, if you will, for rural communities. And these are just, like I said, just a handful. The first one here is the National Council of State Legislatures, where there are different state legislator programs that have been started by different states to address rural issues. So there's some really good examples there. They all really give some innovative solutions to addressing, like I said, things like housing shortages, maybe even pathway programs to address staffing shortages. Rural Health Information Hub is a great resource if you haven't been to their website. They have a whole slew of really good, valuable information and some best practice examples. And then the USDA, this link is the last one here that I'm sharing. That one has some really, like I said, some really good examples about rural communities and things that they have done to overcome some challenges. So great examples to really kind of learn from and just see some best practices on initiatives that are happening out there. So let's get to the kind of the meat of what we're here to talk about today. I really want to talk about how you can create some marketing messages that are going to help you attract candidates. We're going to talk through what today's candidates, what today's job seekers really want to know about your opportunities and where their priorities and preferences are. So some of the things that we have seen just on a national kind of stance of observations that we have seen that what's working and what's not working when it comes to marketing and attracting candidates. First and foremost is your job advertisements have to be compelling. If you have just a list of, your standard list of key duties and responsibilities listed out for any of your job postings, it's probably not a surprise to you, but you're probably not getting a lot of inquiries just reaching out to you, applying for those jobs. You really have to put a little bit more information and more links and more just feelings about your organization, expressing the culture more. You have to have messaging that is more candidate focused. So what's in it for the candidate, not what's in it for you. Not just what you need, but why does the candidate need to work for you? And what do you have to offer to the candidates? So really marketing your opportunity, including those unique selling points, are going to be really important, but also talking about your value propositions. And like I said, what's in it for the candidate. Talking about your culture is huge. I have more information to share with you on this in a few minutes, but today's candidates are really focused on the culture of an organization. You need to make sure that you're leveraging social media because that's how we are sourcing a lot of candidates. We're definitely in a virtual space when it comes to sourcing since the pandemic, and social media is one of the avenues of really getting. It's a great way to get to express your culture as well by utilizing social media. Um, Advertisements that provide links to more information are the ones that we find to be the most successful, whether they're links to your career page on your website, links to testimonial videos from your staff, or maybe even community videos to help people understand more about your rural community and what you have to offer. Advertisements that use photos of your people, not just stock photos, to really show the face of your organization and to help people really understand who works for your organization and to kind of see how they might be able to fit in with your organization, and not just the people but also your facility. Showing pictures of what your facilities look like and maybe your community as well, so the surroundings. You might even like to include maps so that people, and this is particularly important if you're in rural community, because a lot of people um, just have this perceived notion that if you're in a rural community, you're isolated and you don't have shopping access, or you don't have airports near you. So if you provide those maps, you can kind of give people a tool to be able to kind of see on a map where you are and to really identify what things are in your area and point them to different community attractions. And it can be within your community, but could also be in within your region as well as within your state as well. Um, those that are not mobile friendly across all different types of devices are not going to be competitive. So you need to make sure not only is your website mobile friendly, but also your job postings and your application process that really has to be able to be utilized from a cell phone, because we know that majority of today's job seekers are doing their applying for jobs right from their cell phone. So you have to make sure that you are mobile friendly for sure. And communication has to be responsive and timely. We know that the job market is moving very quickly. People are getting offers very quickly and they are accepting offers quickly. So you have to be able to communicate as soon as a candidate reaches out to you. Within 24 hours is pretty much the norm and the expectation. If you wait 2, 3, 4 days, sometimes a week, that candidate has already started that interview process with your competitors. So you need to make sure that you have systems set up in place that you can react and respond to your candidates very, very quickly. So candidate motivations today really I like to say it depends on the candidate. These are some general candidate motivations, but every single candidate you talk to is unique. And you really need to start developing those conversations, build that rapport from the beginning to really be able to understand what are their priorities, which sequence would each candidate put this list of motivations into. One thing that we have seen since the pandemic is that there has been a lot more emphasis put at the bottom of this candidate motivations list. Yes, everybody wants compensation. They want to be paid well for their services. Um, the practice structure is really important. Loan repayment incentives are important, and having practice support is important. But what we've seen since the pandemic is that work-life balance, family satisfaction, having a positive working culture, and that quality of life are really they've been moved to the forefront. They're now more important than some of the other types of motivators that we have seen in the workplace. So today's job seeker priorities, really, like I mentioned, since the pandemic, people had some real time on their hands to really kind of reflect and dig deep and really understand what they wanted out of work. So a lot of people are looking for more meaning. They want to have better fulfillment. A lot more people are passion driven. Quality of life is really important now, and people expect, they don't just want a better work-life balance, they expect it. And if they don't have that, or if they don't think they can have that at within your position or within your organization, they're going to look elsewhere. So it's really, really important to make sure that when you're putting your job postings together, you're putting your career pages on your website, that you're speaking to the work-life balance, and that you're showing examples of how your organization prioritizes having a healthy work-life balance, because it is really important. And that's the only way that we can really combat provider burnout and retention, and really address retention in our organization, is really focusing on creating that healthy work-life balance. And also having a positive working culture. There is a zero tolerance nowadays for toxic work environments. So if you do find that you have areas in or departments within your organization where there is high turnover, you want to make sure that you're addressing that. Have exit interviews, look at your reviews online, and we'll talk about that in a few more minutes. But make sure that you're staying on top of that, and making sure that you also have a zero tolerance for any type of toxic leaders, management styles, or just in general toxic work environments, because that will be detrimental to your retention if you're not addressing those. Today's employees really want to have good relationships with their managers and the leadership, and with other coworkers. We want to have friends at work. And quite honestly, that is what is going to help you with your retention. When you are encouraging your staff to have friends at work, people don't quit their friends. They quit coworkers, but they don't quit their friends. If they are invested and they come to work every day because they love the relationships that they have fostered at their work every day, they're not going to want to leave those. They want to foster and stay with those types of friend relationships. They're invested, they're engaged. Today's job seekers want to have flexibility and autonomy in the workplace. And we'll talk through what flexibility means, because it has lots of different definitions depending on the candidate. We'll talk through that in a few minutes. Today's job seekers also want professional development, and they want to have career advancement opportunities. And I'll share some statistics with you on some recent reports, what they have shown. But if you aren't offering kind of a career path and really helping to mold your staff, you're missing out on a really, really strong retention tool. So hopefully a lot of you are kind of in that space and having those conversations with your staff, because it's not only a great recruitment tool, but also a retention tool as well. DEI initiatives, same goes for this. Having inclusion and feeling a sense of belonging is so important in today's workplace. I'll also have some really strong and compelling statistics to share with you in a few minutes on DEI initiatives and how it's really being kind of led by the younger generations that are making up half of our workforce now. Fair and equal pay is also something that people are looking for, as well as recognition and appreciation for their efforts. That really helps them to understand that having that fulfillment and that they're contributing and feeling a sense of belonging within the organization, being recognized and appreciated for those efforts really, again, is something people are looking for, but it also helps them, it helps them retain within the organization. So I always like to share a little bit about the different generations that make up the workplace. Right now, the workplace really is made up pretty much a 50-50 split between our older generations, the boomers and the Gen Xers, and then the millennials and the Generation Z is making up the newer lower half of our workplace. And it's really helpful when you're thinking about your marketing strategy and you're thinking about how you want to put your job postings together. It's helpful to really think about the different generations in the workplace, but not only what is going to attract them, so what they want, but also how you're going to reach them. And what are the different tactics that you might be able to reach the different generations. Hopefully you're all thriving to have a really diverse workforce and really doing all that you can to make sure that you're diversifying and kind of crossing all of the different generational differences or age groups that are making up the current workforce. But making sure that you're understanding everyone has different communication preferences and they're going to be discovering your sourcing in different ways. These are just some ideas. For instance, boomers, they might be looking to, maybe they're thinking about retirement, so they're looking for more flexibility in their hours, but having some stability is also going to be important, as well as the healthcare benefits as they're thinking about transitioning into retirement. We do know that the tactics for reaching boomers still, they are very traditional, so they're still reading newspapers, they are applying for jobs in person or through job boards as well. But we also know that about 50% of people over the age of 65 are also using Facebook and Instagram. They are digitally connected, so you don't want to exclude them when you are doing your digital or your virtual advertisements as well. Gen X's, again, work-life balance is really important to this age group. They're very digital savvy. Really, Facebook and Instagram are kind of your prime sources for both Gen X's and the millennials for reaching those target audiences. Being mobile friendly is really going to be something you want to make sure that you are paying close attention to for the millennials and the Gen Xers. Gen X really want to know about that day-to-day role, so really promote what that's going to look like. Your millennials, your Gen Zs, they want to know about the social impact. The company culture is going to be really important to them. They want to know how they fit in. Growth opportunities are really important for millennials. Also, the Gen Zs, learning opportunities are also going to be really important as well. Flexibility is something that we see really the younger generations really kind of driving that initiative. And I'll talk through that in a minute of what that flexibility looks like. And what was the other one I wanted to touch base on? Oh, making a contribution to the company. That one is something our youngest generation, the Generation Z, is really looking for, and not only having that social impact, but they also have that entrepreneurial mindset. So they want to know how they're going to be able to impact the organization and the different contributions that they can make to the organization. So hopefully that gives you some ideas across different generations. And I also wanted to give you some different ways to really communicate the different needs that that employees are looking for when they're looking for a new opportunity, and really honing in on what your competitive advantage is and how you communicate that. So I would really compel you to really think about and assess what your mission is, your vision, your values. Be thinking about what team means to you, or quality of care, patient-centered, a lot of those kind of buzzwords or terms that we hear about. Really think about, what does that mean to your organization, and how can we express that? How can we communicate that in our marketing and also in our branding as well? So be thinking about the different needs that candidates have, um, or job seekers have. And those areas are belonging, fulfillment, esteem, and prosperity. So these are just some examples and some ideas to help you kind of think through, how can we express that? How can we communicate what our organization has to offer in terms of belonging? So talking about your story, or your employees' stories, or how your organization values teamwork, or how you work together as a team, really kind of speaks to that sense of belonging, and how someone from the outside might be able to see themselves fitting in. In terms of fulfillment, you can talk about quality of care, having clinical autonomy, how they might be able to make a difference, or how your staff is making a difference in your community, because that gives that sense of fulfillment. In terms of esteem, that can be shown through leadership, opportunities for professional development, maybe opportunities to teach and give back to their profession, any different types of things that really show you as an employer of choice. This is a great example here. This example that says, we provide a culture of respect where our team can thrive. We empower one another to continually grow, and we improve our team-based approach to care. And then in terms of prosperity, talking to the culture of your organization, really emphasizing your eligibility for loan repayment, competitive pay, but also generous benefits, generous time off. These types of things are really going to speak highly in terms of prosperity. And also health and well-being. That is really important to today's generation. And we'll talk through some more of these, and I'll give you some more examples in a few minutes. So before you start writing your job, I always start off by saying it's really important to get input from your staff. Find out what is important to them, what matters to them in the job, what gets them excited when they come to work every day, why do they work there? What attracted to them to their position when they were first starting out, or maybe to your organization, or even to your community if they weren't from your community, because these are going to give you some really great ideas, maybe some keywords or phrases that are going to carry meaning and impact to other candidates that might be looking at your job postings. It's also really important to make sure that you utilize your staff as a marketing soundboard. Share your job postings with your staff. Encourage your staff to follow you on your social media campaigns, whether it's your LinkedIn channel or your Facebook, and encourage them to market your job postings, share their job postings with their friend networks, with their colleague networks, because they can be a really great marketing team to help you get the word out about your job openings. So make sure you include them in that conversation, as well as getting input from your hiring managers. Really important, whether it's your operations director, your clinical director, or just your hiring managers in general. Talk to them about the positions and really understand not only who the ideal candidate is, but help them give you some ideas that are really going to help you sell that job to candidates in your job posting and on your career website. So finding out a little bit more about the dynamics of their team is going to be really, really important. Thinking about what's special about the team, maybe compared to other teams that they've worked with. Talk through what the ideal candidate traits might be, but also understand not only who makes up the team, but is there anything that might be missing from the team? Are there any components that might be helpful for you to be looking for in your candidates? So as you're kind of screening and talking through candidates that apply for your jobs, finding out what all of their best let's say it's a nursing position, maybe all of their best nurses might have in common. And then, like I said, finding out if there's anything that might complement the team that you might not, that might be missing from the team. Obviously, it's really important to find out if there are any requirements for this position or if there's going to be any deal breakers on the resume or CVs, because you want to make sure you're not wasting anyone's time, whether it's the candidate or the hiring manager. You want to make sure the candidates that you're putting forward really fit the position, and have all of those qualities and requirements that are going to be required. And you also want to make sure in your job postings that you understand the skills or certifications that might be required or preferred, and making sure that you're using that wording, whether it's a required certification or skill, or if it's preferred, because you don't want candidates to automatically assume they might not pertain to a position, and kind of prevent them from applying from a job if they felt they didn't have that certification. For instance, if you were willing to help a candidate reach that certification, um, you want to make sure that that is included in your job posting and you're not eliminating any candidates from applying. So it's also really helpful to look at the position from the candidate's perspective. So that practice environment, really getting a good snapshot or a good picture of what the position entails and what that practice is going to look like to them. And I've put together these questions based off of lots of different interviews I've had with candidates. These are the top questions that candidates will come up with. They want to know what the practice is going to look like. They want to know how busy they're going to be. They want to know who they're going to be working with. They also want to know how you're going to be able to keep them safe. They want to know about the special requirements, whether loan repayment is eligible, or maybe visa sponsorship might be eligible. And they also may want to know why you're recruiting for the position. So these are all really good questions, really kind of help you start gathering the information and putting that information together so that you're prepared for the questions. It's always helpful to include a lot of this detail in your job postings so that candidates really can figure out from the information that you put out there whether they can see themselves in your organization or working in this position. Um, so I've just given you some ideas there on what to include, but this is also some really helpful conversation starters too. So when you're actually interviewing and talking to candidates, these are going to help you be prepared for those screening conversations where you're able to give a little bit more information about your organization, but also the position that candidates are really going to be looking to find. And it's going to help you to really have some engaging rapport with your candidates right from the beginning. So we know since the pandemic, there's really been a big emphasis put in these in the workforce in these three areas of safety, culture, and what I've been talking about a lot of it is flexibility. In terms of safety, things about how you not only protect your staff, but also how much emphasis you put on whole person health and well-being, whether you have an EAP program or you have different benefits around promoting work-life balance and well-being, stress reduction, and just overcoming burnout in general. It's also financial stability too. Job security is really big, and transparency when it comes to pay, but also uh, regulations, certification, that type of thing. In terms of culture, job seekers today want to have real life examples of how they're going to be able to make a difference, or they want to be able to read about how your organization is impacting your community. They want to be able to know what your mission is and to see how they might align with your mission or your values. DEI is really important. They want to make sure that organizations they're working with recognize DEI and that they have initiatives in place to really excel and be diverse and equal and inclusive. We know providers want to make sure that they're performing at the top of their licensure. They also want to have good camaraderie and they want to have a good team atmosphere. They want to have opportunities for growth, leadership development, opportunities to teach. These are all different types of things that are going to help them be fulfilled in their positions. And flexibility is really something that's been talked about a lot the last couple of years. And what I always like to say is flexibility means something different to every person you talk to. It's not just about working a flexible shift or staggered shifts. It can be flexible scheduling, but it's not always remote work or telehealth. It could also be different technology to help them do their jobs easier or to make more operational efficiencies. Flexibility is also having or emphasizing work-life balance and really encouraging not just your staff to use their PTO or their time off, but also encouraging your leaders to do the same, set good examples, because we know that that really transpires down to your staff. It's a trickle-down effect. Making sure you have generous time off benefits, but also investment options. That financial stability is also can be seen in terms of flexibility and having different benefits available to different generations depending on where their priorities are. So really speaking to that employee value proposition and understanding what you have to offer is really going to be really key to really set yourself apart and create those unique selling benefits. So I talked a little bit a few minutes ago about promoting DEI and why it's important. The changing workforce has really pushed DEI really to the forefront with our younger generations, really demanding more social justice. Glassdoor did a survey last year where they found that 74% of today's job seekers said that DEI was an organizational's DEI investment was important to them when they considered a new job, and 62% of them said they would turn down a job offer if they felt that the organization didn't support DEI initiatives. So those are really compelling numbers. We know that it's really, really important, and it's just really important when you're putting your job postings together or when you're putting your career page together that you're talking about DEI at an organizational level and really showing what your organization is doing in this area. So making sure you're promoting it on your website, your career page, your social media posts, even your job postings. Make sure you're scanning your job postings and your career page to make sure you are using inclusive language, you're excluding any bias. There's even some AI tools, which I'll talk more about AI in a few minutes, but there's some AI tools out there that will actually scan your job postings or scan your website for you to make sure that you are that you're excluding bias and that you have inclusive language in it. Make sure you're educating your staff, especially your interviewing panels, to make sure that they understand what bias is and how they can avoid it. It's something innate, it's natural in all of us, and we a lot of times have bias without even understanding or realizing that we have it. So making sure you're educating everyone, making sure you're putting together a really diverse interviewing panel is really important. And that when you're making introductions, when you're bringing candidates in for site visits, that you're introducing them to diverse staff members as well. Promote your employee resource groups, have diversity training amongst all of your staff, and think about mentoring programs that you can start up too that will help in this space. It's also really helpful to be really knowledgeable, especially if you're in a rural community. You might not have a really diverse population, but know who makes up your population in your community, but not just your community, also your region. Know about the different religious groups or ethnic restaurants or markets, different community groups or cultural festivities that are happening in your area so that you can introduce when you bring in new candidates that aren't from your area or have more diverse backgrounds, to help them get acclimated into your communities and into your regions as well. If you're not familiar with the association, Clinicians for the Underserved, which is known as ACU. They have a really helpful toolkit to help you think about having more of an inclusive organization, and I've included a link to that toolkit right there for you. So if you want to check that out, it's a good guide to follow. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your website because we know how important it is. I always like to think of it as your virtual window into your facility. We know that almost all job seekers nowadays will go straight to your website before they apply for a job. So we know that your website is really, really important. If you have a dedicated career page, if you don't have a dedicated career page, I highly encourage you to think about adding one. It can be a really great recruitment tool. Be thinking about your website as a recruitment tool. It's not just a portal for your patients to find access to your services. It is a great recruitment tool for candidates to really learn more about your organization, learn more about the services that you offer, your community impact. Make sure that you have your mission, vision, and values really accessible on your website. A lot of times when I do assessments for organizations, I struggle to find their mission anywhere on their website. You want to make sure that we know it's important to today's job seekers, so make sure people can see it on your website. Share those employee testimonials of why your staff loves your organization, why they like to come to work every day. Make sure you have your job postings and that you're using those keywords so you have optimal search engine optimization. Don't forget to include community information. That's another thing that a lot of times will see is missing from websites or career pages. Link to your travel and tourism websites or your Chamber of Commerce. Include photos or videos about your community to help people, especially important if you're in rural communities. It helps people to understand what your community is made up of, helps them see some of the things to do there, maybe have access to the schools or shopping, or maybe how close you are to the nearest airport, things like that, so that you're able to kind of paint that picture and help dispel any just kind of assumptions that might be made about a rural community and maybe how isolated or desolate you might be. You want to make sure you're overcoming any of those prejudices. And then we talked about mobile friendly. You want to make sure it has to be mobile friendly, but also easy to use from a mobile phone or just from a laptop or computer. If you have to click through to maybe more than 2 or 3 clicks to find your career page, you're probably not in a really good prime spot. So you want to rethink, kind of where you're located, where your jobs are located on your website. Make sure you have that clear call to action so that candidates they know how to submit their job postings, and make sure you keep that application process as simple as possible. If you have to download a 3-5 page application and print it out and fax it in, or mail it in or drop it off in person, you probably have a few barriers for people to be able to apply to your jobs. We know from different reports that are out there that people want to know about your culture, they want to know about your perks and your benefits, and they want to know about your mission and your vision. So these are areas you want to make sure you have prominently displayed on your career page. That's a no-brainer, but a lot of times people just forget, and it gets kind of lost in the shuffle. I also encourage you to Google your organization and understand what candidates are finding, because we know candidates are Googling you. So you want to make sure you understand what they're finding. So what do your reviews look like? Are you utilizing your business profile on Google or on LinkedIn? Hopefully you all are, but if you aren't, make sure you're maximizing that. Put some great information out there. Encourage your staff to follow you on those social profiles and to share their testimonials on there as well. And make sure that you're addressing any negative reviews that might be out there. Their negative reviews are always going to be out there. but it's what you do to address those that really makes the biggest difference. And it doesn't mean you have to answer all the problems, make everyone happy. Just acknowledging someone, thanking them for making the time, letting them know you're going to use their feedback to help improve your processes. That speaks volumes about your organization. You don't have to solve the problems on social media. Just expressing that it's important and you value that feedback is helpful. Making sure that you are leveraging social media. Make sure you post your jobs on your social media. Make sure you're using that to enhance your recruitment, promote your culture on social media, be thinking about candidates. We know that 49% of job seekers out there use social media to learn about job postings. So that means that 49% or almost half of the followers that are following you on your social media are actually following you to find out about your job postings. So make sure you put them there. We know that 79% of job seekers use social media, so it's definitely a way to reach candidates and also to share your message. So make sure you're recognizing your staff, you're putting your awards and achievements on there, promote your community as well. And then you can also utilize lots of different ways to target either small or national audiences and do some ad campaignings on social media as well. So before we close, I wanted to give some really good examples that really portray a lot of what I've talked about today. So these are just a compilation of a few job posting examples. These are actual job postings. I've done a little bit of this particular one. I did take the name out of the job posting, but these are examples that really kind of speak to or show a lot of the things that I was emphasizing. And this one I did highlight this is a nurse practitioner position in Philadelphia. They did a really good job of providing some links in here. So there's a link to not only their health center, they also have a link to a video. It's a testimonial video about why their nurse practitioners love to work at their organization. They talk about all of the rewards of why a candidate would find their position rewarding. And it speaks to different generations as well. So they talk about potential leadership roles. They talk about serving as a mentor. If they choose to, they can precept nurse practitioner students. They are looking for candidates to give feedback and insights to help their organization grow and improve. They mention clinical autonomy. They talk about making a positive difference in the lives of their patients. So these are all kind of those key things that we know today's job seekers are really prioritizing. They also have a link to loan repayment information if that pertains. They provide just a little snippet of information, but there's a link to more information where a candidate can go to learn more about that. And they've also provided a little bit of information about the community and then a link to more information if a candidate's not already familiar with their area. And then at the bottom, they had a really clear call to action of how they want the candidate to apply and send that CV and directly gave whether it's apply online or give your email address for someone to send it to. This is a couple more examples of some really good job posts. This one here, I have one for, I think this is a hygienist. Yes, there's a hygienist position and an OB position here. A lot of really cool things here. What I really liked about the hygienist one is the career and support you deserve at the bottom. They really hone in on clinical leadership, continuing education, that professional development and mentorship. They also talk about the technology and having electronic patient records, digital radiography, state-of-the-art dental equipment, things like that that really resonate with candidates and what they might be looking for in a position. They also value time off, and they spell that out right in their job posting. So again, really good examples of how to word and put this information together. The OBGYN one here, this one really talks a lot about what a candidate would be looking for in a position. They want to know, again, about the equipment they're going to be using. They want to know about their hours. So this talks about the patient, the volume. It also talks about mentorship, the shared call. It gives some really good examples of really in picturing what the position actually, that practice environment looks like. these are all some really good examples of conveying the culture. I won't read through all of these, but I hope that you come back to these because there's some really good examples here of how to really um, express your culture. It's so hard to talk about the culture that you have, and each culture is really unique depending on your organization. This one, they have a whole, I think it was Bitterroot Health is the name of this organization. They have it spelled right out, our culture, here's what it is, and they talk about it. But there's lots of different ways you can really express your culture. And one of them is just by showing your people. Pennsylvania Primary Care is really big on, they created this new branding campaign where they have actual pictures of staff and they put it on all of their branding. And whether it's on a billboard or signs at the hospital, it's a great conversation starter because people will see people they know in their advertising because they're all from the same communities. So it's a great way to really show the picture, you know, having common faces or recognizable faces. DEI, this is a really great tool here. I have an article on ways to write your own DEI statements. These are some good examples of, of being able to explain or be more explicit about your DEI. But first and foremost, it has to be sincere. It has to be honest, friendly, and genuine to really communicate your values as an organization. Just stating your equal opportunity employer statement, if that's a legal obligation, it's really not a sincere commitment. So be honest and friendly and genuine and really straightforward and kind of speak from the heart and communicate your values. Because we know that 74% of job seekers say that a company's DEI investment is really important to them. So again, it's really, really important to communicate that. So those are some examples to help you with that. And in closing, I really wanted to leave you with some really helpful resources if you're looking to really kind of wordsmith and come up with some really compelling job advertisements. I encourage you to try some of the AI content generators. I've included several different links to some free AI generators here for you to try out. There's Chat GPT, Workable, Jasper. These are all some free versions that you can try out. They are really pretty cool. My next slide, LinkedIn has a talent solutions resource guide. And I included an example here just to kind of show you, you put in just kind of some keywords and it will come up with a sample description that you can kind of a template that you can use to kind of help you put together your benefits in a really compelling way to really reach some of the candidates. And this is really cool on the LinkedIn website because you can tailor this to all different types of healthcare professional positions, you know, depending on where you might have some postings. So again, I've pointed out some different links here. So hopefully you'll use these slides to kind of go through and utilize some of the resources that I've shared with you today. So our key takeaways in closing, I want to make sure that you know what your strengths are, understand what your competition is, know what your candidates are looking for, and then identify what really sets you apart and how it can align with your candidate's needs. But also remember to be flexible and always adapt and improve your job postings because we know, especially if you're not getting a lot of response, go back to those job postings and really think through what can I do to make this a little bit more compelling? What can I do to answer candidates' questions and see what I can do to make sure that candidates understand how they might have a place and a fit within our organization. So we have another minute or two. If you have questions, hopefully you're throwing those in the chat page. Will let me know if any questions have come up. This site here is a direct link to our website. If you go to the dashboard.3rnet.org, right under here, the green tab here, the R for R, which stands for Recruiting for Retention, is our resource center, where you will find all of our free resources, which I provided links to, but I also wanted to give you just access to our website so you know where to find them there. And in closing, I wanted to make sure you know about the Academy that is coming up. We offer an annual 6-part webinar series every year. It starts this year, it's starting October 8th, runs through December 17th. We'll have 6 90-minute webinar series, and our focus this year is going to be on retention tools, data, and stories to help you with your recruiting for retention. And the Academy is being sponsored by the Michigan Center for Rural Health, so that all of you will be able to participate at no cost. So be looking for information from Paige coming out probably in July or August to be able to register that for the Academy for free, and you'll have a unique code that you'll be able to use to kind of waive that fee. And I've also, in closing, included my contact information. So if any of the links aren't working for you, if you have any follow-up questions, you have a way to reach out to me. I want to thank you all for your attention today. Hopefully, I have provided all of you with some really good tools, tips, and resources to help you make sure that your job postings and your marketing is really compelling and attracting to today's candidates. So Paige, I'll turn it back to you to see, do we have any questions that came up in the chat?
Don't have any questions yet in the chat. I know it's already 1 o'clock, but if anyone wants to stick around for a few minutes, feel free to put in the Q&A, the chat at all. But thank you, Mandi, for all those great resources and discussion items here too. And yes, I'll be sending more information about the 3RNet Academy probably after 4th of July, start that. But yes, we're excited this year to help sponsor it. And it's a really great academy for anyone who's attended in the past. Just really great information and great webinars. And if anyone wants to raise their hand, I know probably people are having to go back for lunch, but I don't see anything in the chat, anyone's hand raised.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, if you have any more questions for Mandi or myself, feel free to reach out to both of us. But thank you so much again, Mandi, for presenting, and it was great information.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye, everyone.